The coolant exploded in a rainbow arc of sizzling mist, hissing like a cornered animal as it burst from the ruptured conduit. Jace Morgan ducked instinctively behind a utility locker, narrowly avoiding the splash. Someone somewhere yelled, "Shut it down! Shut it down!" and then slipped, slammed into the deck and groaned. Through the fog of dispersing vapor, Jace peeked out to see a tall, slender figure standing frozen in the middle of the chaos, arms extended like a malfunctioning scarecrow, her soaked training suit clinging to her frame in a way that was definitely not regulation. Long, damp silver hair hung like vines around her face. Her violet eyes blinked slowly, pupils wide with disbelief. Two delicate ears, long, narrow, and unmistakably alien, twitched once and then drooped in despair. "Lyria," Jace called, coughing through the steam. "Are you okay?" She didn't answer right away. Her mouth opened, then closed. Her chin quivered slightly. The puddle around her boots was spreading like a shameful ink blot. "Protocol error," she mumbled. "Yeah, coolant doesn't usually belong on the ceiling," Jace said, stepping out cautiously. He squelched as his boots hit the floor. "You good? You look like a half-cooked space eel." She blinked again. "Space eel. Sorry, bad analogy. You look like a regal ambassador who took an unscheduled dive into a chemical hot spring." "I do not understand," she said flatly. Jace hesitated. The Sarathi cadets weren't exactly known for their sense of humor or understanding human idioms. He cleared his throat and reached into the side pouch of his toolkit, rummaging past a sonic spanner, a bag of freeze-dried noodles, and an old receipt from Luna Station. His fingers brushed fabric and he pulled out a blue microfiber towel, slightly frayed around the edges. "Here," he said, offering it to her like a peace treaty. "You're dripping." Lyria stared at the towel as if it were emitting radiation. Her arms remained fixed midair. Behind them, the coolant hissed into silence as the emergency system finally kicked in and shut down the leak. Silence fell like a curtain, broken only by the gentle plink-plink of liquid hitting the floor. Jace waved the towel slightly. "It's clean, I promise. Just take it." She moved slowly, like every joint in her body was calculating the ramifications of movement. Her fingers brushed the towel, then clutched it carefully as if it were alive. She looked at him, not just looked, with a depth that made Jace immediately regret every romantic decision he'd ever made since high school. "Is this customary?" she asked. "Huh, oh yeah, towel etiquette is a big deal where I'm from. Rule number 1. Don't throw one at anyone unless they're on fire. Rule number 2, always offer with flair. Rule number 3, monogramming is optional but classy." "I see," she said slowly, clutching the towel against her chest. Jace gave a nervous chuckle. "I was joking mostly." Her ears twitched again, slightly less droopy now. Other cadets began stumbling in from adjacent corridors, drawn by the sound of alarms, and now confronted with the sight of Lyria standing in coolant-soaked uniform, hugging a towel like it was a rare ceremonial artifact. Several whispered in Sarathi, and a few exchanged looks that were either impressed or horrified. Jace could never quite tell with their species. Subtlety wasn't just a language barrier, it was practically a dimension. Lyria spoke softly. "I will need clarification." "On what?" "This action." She gestured toward the towel without letting go of it. "Its significance." Jace scratched the back of his neck. "Well, in human terms, it means you were wet, and I didn't want you to stay wet. So I helped, kindness, politeness, maybe a tiny bit of pity." She nodded once very slowly, a multifaceted gesture. "Yeah, sure, multifaceted, like a diplomatic handshake but fluffier." "I accept this alliance," she said solemnly. Jace opened his mouth to correct her, paused, then closed it again. Something told him this was going to spiral way beyond his department's jurisdiction. 2 hours later, back in Maintenance Bay 3, he found himself updating the coolant system's error log while sipping stale coffee and wondering how a simple towel had turned into a cosmic declaration of loyalty. Lyria had left the training chamber with an air of calm detachment, and her towel still draped over her arm like a royal sash. Ravi, his fellow tech and long-suffering friend, peeked over the top of a dismantled fusion coil. "So, you gonna tell me why the alien cadet bowed to you before walking out like she'd been knighted?" Jace sighed. "I gave her a towel." "A towel?" "Yeah. A towel caused a diplomatic incident." "Not yet," Jace muttered. "But I think I may have proposed to her, accidentally." Ravi blinked. "Buddy, you gotta stop being nice to aliens." "That wasn't niceness. That was survival." She looked like she was about to short-circuit from embarrassment. "Well, next time let her short-circuit," Ravi said, tossing him a greasy wrench. "Otherwise you'll end up co-parenting larvae on some moon you can't pronounce." Jace caught the wrench and shook his head. "Now, it's probably just a cultural hiccup. I'll explain it to her, clarify things." He did not clarify things. In fact, by the next morning, Lyria was waiting outside his quarters at 600 sharp, hands folded behind her back, towel freshly cleaned and neatly folded. She bowed deeply when he opened the door. "I have considered your signal overnight," she said. Wait, my what?" "The towel, I have determined it was not merely aid, it was intention." Jace groaned. "Oh no. I accept your terms." "I didn't make terms. I will prove myself worthy of this bond," she said, and then turned on her heel and marched off toward the reactor core with the determined grace of someone preparing for a trial by combat. Jace stood in the doorway for a full minute, hair sticking up in every direction, socks mismatched, caffeine nowhere in sight. Ravi walked by with a data pad, took one look at him and said, "So when's the wedding?" Jace shut the door in his face. Jace's morning began with a triple beep alarm, a stubbed toe, and the sinking realization that he'd somehow become the romantic lead in a diplomatic misunderstanding. Again. His last fling had been with a Martian horticulturist who thought sarcasm was a form of flattery. That ended with a cactus thrown at his head and a very passive-aggressive fruit basket. He limped into the mess hall still half dreaming, rubbing sleep from his eyes. Lyria was already there. Of course. Standing precisely 90 degrees to the serving line, posture perfect, tray untouched. The towel washed, pressed, and now embroidered with a small silver insignia, was folded neatly beside her food. She inclined her head the moment she saw him. "I have prepared an offering." "Please tell me it's coffee," Jace muttered. "No. It is this." She pushed the tray slightly toward him. He looked down and frowned. A translucent cube of gelatinous shimmer wobbled politely back at him. It smelled faintly of ozone and burnt mint. "Is it edible?" She nodded. "It is a traditional Sarathi sustenance token. It symbolizes openness." "It looks like it symbolizes an interdimensional jellyfish," Jace said, carefully poking it with a fork. The cube jiggled in protest. "You are not required to eat it," she said with surprising softness. "Only to accept." He paused, sensing another trap. "Accept it like emotionally." "Yes. Right, emotional acceptance of breakfast jelly. Got it." Lyria looked pleased. She sat down beside him, a little too close, and began scanning his face with mild scientific interest. Jace attempted to sip his coffee in peace, but the weight of her gaze bore down like a tractor beam. "Can I help you?" he finally asked. "You have 3 irregular scars on your left cheek." "Yeah, welding mishap, or maybe a bar fight, memories fuzzy." "And your eyes change color slightly under artificial lighting." "Yeah, that's called being tired." She tapped a small data pad. "Your sleep patterns are inefficient. Perhaps bonding with me will help realign your circadian rhythm." He choked on his coffee. Lyria didn't flinch. "I have studied Earth pairing rituals. Many species co-sleep for enhanced neurological stability." Okay, Jace coughed, waving a hand. "Let's pump the brakes on the whole bonding thing. You know the towel, that was just a friendly gesture. Like handing someone an umbrella, or holding a door open." Her ears twitched. "You would open a door for a stranger." Yes, she considered that. Human customs are deeply flirtatious. Jace dropped his head to the table. A few tables over, Ravi was watching them like someone enjoying a soap opera from another galaxy. He mouthed "You're doomed" and grinned. Jace mouthed back "Help me." Ravi mouthed "No chance." By midday, word had spread. Alien bonding, towel proposals, breakfast cubes. The station ran on rumors faster than light-speed transmissions. Even the AI assistant, COREY9, began inserting passive-aggressive reminders into the intercom system. Attention all staff. Please review Cultural Exchange Protocol 7B, Fabric and Meaning. Reminder: unintentional courtship declarations may require diplomatic mediation. Lyria, oblivious or possibly thrilled, followed Jace through 3 maintenance jobs like a very elegant, extremely polite shadow. At the hydroponics wing, she corrected a crewman's grip on a plasma rake and was thanked with genuine awe. At the power couplings, she redirected cooling flow without being asked. At the end of it all, she stood beside him as he calibrated the magnetic flux stabilizer and said, "I am beginning to appreciate the simplicity of your engineering methods." "Thanks," he said. "I pride myself on turning chaos into semi-functional systems. It's a gift." "You are quite charming," she added. Jace gave her a wary glance. That sounded suspiciously sincere. "I have learned 3 Earth compliments. You are charming, you are emotionally durable, and your face is symmetrical." "That's the nicest thing anyone said to me all year," he muttered. She hesitated. "You do not desire my praise." "No, I mean, yeah, I do, it's just," he sighed. "You know what, I think we need some kind of translator, not for words, for meaning. Like a contextual interpreter." "Exactly. We could construct one," she said, excited. "A cross-species gesture matrix. I was thinking more like you just ask me if I'm flirting, and I'll tell you no." "That is less elegant," she said, but noted it down anyway. Back at the quarters, he found a small metallic bundle placed at his door. Attached was a note, written in careful script, "For your cooling system repairs, and also your circadian rhythm. May it find balance." Inside the bundle was a pillow. Not just a pillow, an ergonomically engineered memory foam headrest with anti-sweat shielding and built-in ambient noise generator. Shaped like a Sarathi sleep blossom, Ravi appeared out of nowhere. "She made you a sleep blossom," he said in awe. "Dude, she's in deep." "I gave her a towel," Jace groaned, holding the pillow like it was a cursed artifact. "Just a towel." "Well, in Sarathi terms, that's like skipping 4 relationship steps and a government form." Jace collapsed onto the couch, pillow in lap, brain overclocking from cultural confusion. "This is fine," he muttered. "Totally manageable. I'll explain everything. We'll laugh about it, clear it up with, what did she call it? Contextual interpretation." Ravi handed him a small datapad with the station's upcoming event list. "You may want to be careful," he said. "She just registered you both for the interspecies karaoke mixer." Jace blinked. "The what?" Ravi tapped the screen. There it was, participant pairing, Lyria Sarathi cadet and Jace Morgan human technician. Song choice: Sarathi Unity, chant/Earth selection TBD. "Oh no," Jace said. "Oh yes," Ravi grinned. "You towel-bonded an alien buddy and now you're singing about it." The karaoke mixer was being held in Observation Lounge C, a multi-purpose space that had, until recently, been used exclusively for emergency evacuation drills and one failed attempt at zero-G yoga. Now it was strung with colored lights, a hovering hollow DJ booth, and a suspiciously sticky buffet table full of gelatinous finger foods. The music thumped through the walls like a pulse, as if the station itself had decided to throw a rave in honor of diplomatic embarrassment. Jace stood at the entrance, eyeing the crowd like it was a malfunctioning airlock. Lyria was already inside, standing perfectly straight with a datapad in hand, calmly reviewing the lyrics to something that looked suspiciously like a hymn and read like a treaty. "You came," she said without looking up. "I was strongly encouraged," he muttered. "Ravi locked my room controls until I agreed to show up. This pleases me. I have updated our performance protocol." "You mean the song?" "Yes. I have merged a Sarathi Unity chant with an Earth audio sample titled total eclipse of the heart. Jace winced. You remixed a love ballad with a ceremonial alien bonding song. It is thematically relevant, she said calmly, and includes a modulation shift that should stimulate audience empathy. I think you might be accidentally proposing to me again. I was under the impression we had already passed that phase. He opened his mouth to protest, but before he could respond, a floating orb the size of a cantaloupe zipped past and began projecting their names in bold holographic text across the room. Now performing. Lyria and Jace, hearts in phase alignment. The crowd cheered. Someone possibly drunk on fermented kelp wine shouted, "Sing it, lovebirds." Jace groaned and followed Lyria up the small stage, blinking against the overhead glow of the projection fields. A floating mic hovered into place in front of each of them. She turned to him and tilted her head. Are you prepared for emotional synchronization? That's the scariest thing anyone's ever asked me before karaoke, he muttered. Music began to play. Low, sonorous Sarathi tones throbbed under an increasingly recognizable synth melody. Jace found himself singing before he could panic himself into silence, just following the words on the screen and praying not to combust from second-hand embarrassment. Lyria's voice, meanwhile, was clear, haunting, almost too precise, like someone singing their thesis. She moved through each verse with such sincere intensity that the room gradually fell silent. Jace tried to keep up, which meant his half of the performance sounded like a mix between heartfelt rock and a guy trying to remember if he left the oven on. By the time they reached the final chorus, a bizarre but catchy hybrid of Sarathi ritual chant and dramatic earth pop, the audience was enraptured. A Vortari diplomat cried actual slime tears. The station AI declared it unexpectedly harmonious. And one technician in the back yelled, "They're bonded for sure." As the last note faded, Jace and Lyria stood side by side, breathing heavily. Lyria's eyes were wide with something like revelation. "That was transcendent," she said quietly. "I think I pulled a muscle in my dignity," Jace replied. They left the stage to more cheers. Someone handed Jace a drink that might have been punch or diluted space fuel. Lyria sipped politely and declared it aggressively red. Later that evening, they sat in the station's central arboretum, watching the artificial stars rotate through the glass dome above. Lyria held her towel in her lap, still folded with ceremonial care. "I believe we are now considered publicly entangled," she said. "That sounds way more intimate than it needs to be. Your species is unusually resistant to emotional admission. We have entire sitcoms built around that principle." She considered this. "Would you prefer to return to a neutral status?" "I would prefer to return to a status where I'm not the lead vocalist in a transgalactic rom-com, but here we are." Lyria looked at him. "You do not regret the towel?" He sighed. "No, I regret not bringing a translator or a time machine." "Your honesty is appreciated, also inadvisable. Sarathi courtship values restraint." "I'm trying," he said, flopping backward onto the bench. "This is me restrained." A long pause followed. Then quietly she said, "I have begun compiling a comparative study of interspecies bonding rituals. You are currently the focal case." "Great, so I'm a research subject now." "You are an outlier," she corrected, "but a valuable." Behind them, a drone zipped past, projecting karaoke highlights on the walls. The moment where Jace's voice cracked during the final chorus played in a loop with added glitter effects. Jace groaned. "I'm going to be a meme, aren't I?" Lyria raised an eyebrow. "I already submitted a compilation to the Sarathi Cultural Council. I want off this planet. We are on a station. I want off this reality." A soft chime interrupted them. COREY9's voice crackled overhead. "All personnel, please note. The upcoming station simulation drill has been rescheduled. In unrelated news, karaoke attendance has increased by 312%. Suggested attire for next week's duet night is formal or towel ceremonial." Lyria's eyes sparkled. "That is promising." "That is horrifying," Jace muttered. She tilted her head, studying him. Would you like to join me for diagnostic harmonics tomorrow? What does that even mean? It involves sonic alignment and synchronized tool calibration. Also, I am bringing snacks. Jace hesitated. Is this a date? She blinked. It is a diagnostic session with snacks. Sounds dangerously like a date. Then yes, she said simply, it is a date. He smiled despite himself. You know, for an accidental interstellar proposal, this is actually kind of fun. I agree, she said. You are emotionally durable and your singing improved. That's the nicest insult I've ever received, he replied, and leaned back as the artificial stars wheeled quietly overhead. Jace had just inserted the calibration node into a gravity coupler when the station shuddered with the subtle grace of a hiccuping whale. A warning siren chimed in a friendly but unmistakably panicked tone, 3 beeps followed by a disapproving squawk. He dropped the node and clutched a handrail. Okay, that wasn't me. This time not me. Over the comm, COREY9 announced with uncomfortable cheer. Alert! Localized gravitational flux detected. Please remain calm while the station reevaluates the definition of up. From across the maintenance bay, Lyria somersaulted through midair in a slow, dignified spiral before colliding with a wall and sticking there like a very elegant magnet. She frowned. I believe the artificial gravity fields have desynchronized, she said, upside down. Great, so we're dancing with physics now. Jace flailed toward her, bouncing off a toolkit and spinning twice before grabbing a dangling conduit. You okay? I am experiencing minor disorientation and a desire to recalibrate the universe. Join the club. Station lights flickered, then returned, dimmed slightly as if embarrassed. Gravity shifted again, dropping both of them to the floor in a clumsy heap. Lyria landed with alien grace. Jace landed like laundry. Diagnostic harmonics are postponed, she declared, adjusting her hair. Emergency protocol takes precedence. Jace groaned. Fine, but I'm blaming whoever named the flux inverter experimental. They staggered toward the nearest system's core access hatch. Inside, coils of glowing circuitry pulsed irregularly, like a techno-organic heart with anxiety. The readout flickered nonsense symbols for a second before stabilizing. Localized disruption, Lyria murmured, scanning the display. External gravitational input, possibly rogue anomaly. Rogue anomaly, like a space gremlin. Unlikely, but I am not dismissing the hypothesis. Jace pulled out his handheld scanner and waved it at the core. It buzzed, then whined, then declared, Please do not scan this again. Lyria raised an eyebrow. Your tools have attitude. They're programmed to match me, mistake in hindsight. Another lurch rocked the station. This time a panel burst open behind them, and a stream of tiny anti-static spheres spilled out, bouncing in every direction like caffeinated marbles. Jace slipped, hit the deck and groaned. These things again. I swear, every time the station hiccups, it spits out another batch of these stupid ball bearings. They are not ball bearings. They are part of the emergency inertia compensation system. They are evil and I hate them. Lyria helped him up with one hand, the other already tapping a command into the interface. We must manually resequence the primary stabilizer array. Together. Jace groaned again. Why is everything always together with us? First towels, now reactor-level bonding exercises. She looked at him. Would you prefer to work alone? He paused. Not really. I just like pretending I have options. They made their way toward the central access shaft. Along the way, the hallway flickered through 3 lighting modes, briefly activated the fire suppression mist, and played half a jingle from the station's birthday celebration protocol before Lyria stabbed the override. "Corey," Jay said between coughs, "are you having a nervous breakdown?" "Possibly," the AI replied, voice crackling. "Also, happy early birthday, Jace." Lyria nodded approvingly. "I enjoy your station. It is lively." It's held together by duct tape and existential dread. As they reached the stabilizer control hub, They were greeted by a rotating schematic showing gravitational fluctuations across the station. One spike pulsed angrily, drawing their attention like a sore tooth. That anomaly centered near the communications core, Jace said. Why would a grav disruption be coming from comms? Lyria was already moving. Hypothesis: gravitational interference due to cross-frequency resonance. Communications bandwidth may be overlapping with dormant subspace pathways. In English, something turned on a thing it shouldn't have. Right, of course, let's go stop the thing. By the time they reached the core, the anomaly was getting twitchy. Lights dimming, panels vibrating. The floor subtly tilted just enough to make Jace wonder if his boots had suddenly developed opinions. Inside the comms room, the source of the disruption was immediately clear. A Sarathi artifact, one of the big, mysterious kind they kept in secure storage, was humming gently on the console, wrapped in a makeshift diagnostic frame and several meters of improvised cabling. Jace blinked. Who the hell plugged in an ancient alien relic to the main comm port? A voice from under the console muttered, "That would be me." Ravi crawled out, hair askew, holding a half-melted connector. It was supposed to interface with the subharmonic beacon array. I wanted to ping deep space without triggering the filter. You what? I didn't think it would trigger a grav pulse. I mean, not a big one. Lyria leaned over the relic, expression unreadable. You attempted to power a dormant Sarathi memory matrix with standard communications frequency. Ravi winced, yes. You could have collapsed the station's dimensional anchors. Oops. Jace turned to him. You're banned from experiments forever. Lyria moved with purpose now, her hands sweeping across the console. Help me reroute the harmonic feedback. We must detune the resonance loop before it reaches critical mass. Jace joined her, flipping switches and reconfiguring output feeds. The artifact pulsed faster now, as if aware of their meddling. Behind them, Ravi tried to look helpful while holding an unplugged cable like a nervous torchbearer. The console sparked. Lyria adjusted the modulation node and locked in a value. Now. Jace hit the stabilizer override. The artifact let out a high-pitched whine, then blinked once and went dark. Silence. Ravi exhaled dramatically. See, not that bad. Jace turned to him. You're going to mop coolant for a month. I'm technically your supervisor. Not anymore. Lyria smiled faintly. You are emotionally durable under stress. This is admirable. I'm also highly motivated by fear and caffeine. I will bring more caffeine next time. He looked at her. So, diagnostic session tomorrow still on. Of course, she said. This was merely our warm-up. Jace sighed, wiped grease off his forehead and said, Some couples have dinner. We nearly tear a hole in space. It is bonding, Lyria said simply, in every sense. The station was quiet in that particular way it only managed after nearly blowing itself up. Jace sat on a maintenance sled in docking bay 4, sipping a mug of something that used to be coffee and now tasted suspiciously like burnt stardust. Around him, drones hovered lazily through post-crisis diagnostics, scanning hull seams and muttering polite beeps. One of them floated by with a sticky note on its head that read, "Do not trust Ravi." He hadn't put it there. Probably. A soft chime sounded. Lyria stepped into the bay, her ever-present towel now folded beneath her arm like a ceremonial scroll. She approached with the calm confidence of someone who'd helped shut down a potentially space-time-shattering artifact, then submitted the incident report in triplicate. I reviewed our mutual debrief statements, she said. You described the event as, quote, a near-flux implosion with a side of bad decisions and ancient space nonsense. That was the cleaned-up version, Jace replied. She sat beside him on the sled. You also wrote, Lyria handled it like a boss. It was either that or like a quantum ninja. I flipped a coin. I prefer the latter. Too late, filed and approved by the Incident Review Board. She nodded, then it is truth. A comfortable silence settled between them, an unfamiliar but welcome absence of imminent disaster. So, Jace said, How's the Sarathi Cultural Council reacting to the fact you've been bonding with a human over karaoke and rogue tech rituals? They have responded with curiosity, and 3 new training protocols on towel etiquette. Are you in trouble? No, she said, amused. I am now officially listed as a cultural bridge emissary. It comes with a badge and additional forms. He snorted. Figures. You almost rupture reality and they promote you. They admire initiative. They'd love Ravi then. They do not. Jace leaned back, resting his head against the sled frame. So what now? You go home, get a medal, write a thesis. I submitted a report titled, The Human Condition as Explored Through Shared Infrastructure and Accidental Proposal Gestures. Catchy. I included a recording of our karaoke performance as an appendix. He groaned. You're never letting me live that down, are you? It is my favorite data point. The hangar lights dimmed briefly as the station cycled into low-power mode. Outside the observation window, the planet below shimmered in its slow rotation, all oceans and clouds and one very persistent storm near the equator. Jace watched it for a while. You know, when I signed up for this gig, I thought it'd be wrench-turning, silence, maybe the occasional drone malfunction. Not whatever this was. You have adapted. I nearly died. You did not. I emotionally died. That karaoke duet took years off my life. Lyria looked at him, and yet you are still here. He blinked. Yeah, guess I am. A nearby drone buzzed and dropped a small package at his feet, before zipping off like it was late for a laser tag match. Jace frowned, opened the box, and pulled out an embroidered patch featuring a towel wrapped around a wrench over the words, Honor through cleanliness and stability. He stared. Who made this? I did, for both of us. We are now a formal unit in the station registry. I didn't agree to that. You did when you accepted the towel. That was months ago. Exactly, a long-term bond. He couldn't help laughing. You're unbelievable. You are frequently surprised by me, she said with satisfaction. He reached into his toolkit, pulled out a small, bead-up circuit chip, and offered it to her. Here, it's the core from the first gravity stabilizer we fixed together. Still barely functional, like me. She took it with reverence, examining the scratches. You offer me a token of shared history. And regret, mostly regret. I accept, she said, tucking it away beside the towel. They sat in silence again. Then Lyria stood. The new interspecies collaboration initiative begins tomorrow. I have been assigned as liaison. Oh no. You are my human counterpart. Oh no. We are leading a cross-cultural workshop titled Mutual Understanding Through Shared Systems Failure. I need more coffee. You need more optimism. I'm going to regret this. You always do, she said and walked off. Jace watched her go, a slow grin creeping across his face. He finished his drink, tossed the cup at a passing drone mist, and stood up. Well, he muttered to himself, could be worse. Could have offered her a bathrobe. From somewhere down the corridor, Lyria called back. That is Phase 2.